We are so excited to have you with us tonight to celebrate Tzedek's 52nd anniversary. And now, please give a round of applause for Chair of Tzedek's Board of Directors and partner at Millman Investments, Samantha Millman.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. As one of the few non-lawyers on the Tzedek board, I've learned a lot about the legal profession over the last several years, not the least of which is that when you're in a room full of hundreds of lawyers, it's probably best to keep your remarks brief and carefully worded. So I will try to do that for you tonight. Let me start with what I mean most sincerely, which is that we are so grateful to have you here tonight. I also want to welcome some special guests who not only took time out of their busy schedules to be here, but who have been steadfast supporters of our work. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, U.S. Congressmember Laura Friedman, Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel, Los Angeles City Council Member Adrien Nazarian, Los Angeles City Council Member Nithya Raman, and Los Angeles City Council Member Katie Yaroslavsky. I also want to give a heartfelt thank you to tonight's top sponsors, Covington and Burling, the amazing Ellen and Dan Shallman, the Samueli Foundation, McDermott, Will, and Schulte, and the Greenberg Collins family and Latham and Watkins, and US Bank, and last but certainly not least, JFED LA, who not only provided us funding to help us open our doors in 1974, but has supported us both as a funder and a trusted community partner for 52 years. We're immensely privileged to be joined tonight by our two founders, Stan Levy and Louise Lainer. Stan and Louise, please stand so we can give you a round of applause. Now for some additional very well-deserved thank yous. To our board of directors and President's Council, it is such a privilege to know and work alongside some of the most brilliant, accomplished, and deeply principled people in Los Angeles. Thank you for sharing your time, your expertise, and for being such thoughtful stewards of Tzedek's mission. Please stand if you're on the board of directors so that we can recognize you. And to our dinner committee, thank you for being so generous with your time, treasure, and Rolodex to make tonight an overwhelming success. Will the members of our dinner committee please stand? Thank you. And of course, I'd also like to ask the staff of Tzedek to please stand up. You are the heart and soul of this organization. Whether you're writing grants, taking intake calls, advocating for clients, managing a database, you are an integral part of Tzedek. Our attorneys and advocates sit with people in some of the worst moments of their lives, and they meet them with empathy, expertise, and a level of skill that rivals any law firm in the city. In addition to our staff, Tzedek is buoyed by an army of volunteers. Last year alone, the pro bono services donated by our volunteers had a market value of over $10 million. And that pro bono model is precisely what allows Tzedek to deliver high-quality legal help so efficiently and responsibly. A couple of weeks ago, my 8-year-old daughter, Kate, came bursting through the door after school and announced with enthusiasm, "Mom, I have the best homework tonight. It's all about Kamala Harris." And she handed me a reading passage that described the former vice president's early life and career, and then explained in the most simple terms what a lawyer does. A lawyer is someone who helps make sure that people get justice. Now, Did I receive a text from a friend who was a little less than thrilled with the homework assignment? Yes, I did. And for context, she and I did not vote the same way, as many people in this room may not have voted the same way. But when she calmed down and relaxed, she realized that this homework assignment was not about politics. It was about achieving justice and women breaking barriers and what it means to dedicate your career to helping people obtain justice. Because again, whatever side of the aisle you sit on, everyone in this room believes that access to our justice system is foundational to American democracy and that the law should work equally for everyone. Tonight, you're going to hear from 3 extraordinary honorees. You're going to hear stories from staff, volunteers, and clients whose lives were changed forever because Tzedek showed up for them when it mattered. And when you leave here tonight, you're going to leave knowing exactly what Tzedek does and why it's so vitally important. So here's what I ask of each of you. Tell someone. Tell someone who was not here in this room tonight, because the best thing you can do for Tzedek, besides making a very generous donation during the Text to Give portion of this evening, is to make the people in your life understand what Tzedek is and why this work is so urgent and necessary. A lawyer is someone who makes sure that people get justice. My daughter read it in a 2nd grade assignment. Tzedek has been living it for over 52 years. We're joined tonight by a very special guest who has spent her entire career proving that this idea is worth fighting for as a prosecutor, as Attorney General of California, as United States Senator, and as Vice President of the United States. And she also just so happens to be the subject of my daughter's favorite homework assignment ever. It is an honor to welcome to the stage Tzedek Luis Lainer, President and CEO, Diego Cartagena. And I'm honored to introduce the 49th Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala D. Harris.
Good evening, Tzedek. Good evening. Hi, Diego.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Of course.
And thank you all for being here tonight in support of Tzedek and in support of the belief that justice must be accessible, not simply theoretical. As you heard our board chair mention, Tzedek helps low-income individuals across Los Angeles, from small business owners who are working to keep their doors open and feed their families, to representing immigrants who come to the United States to build a new life, and in so doing, enrich our community. We're having this conversation at a moment in time when public service, the law, and our civic institutions are being tested and too often actively dismantled in front of our eyes and with real and tangible impact. And so we want to spend a moment in time discussing what we all can do about that. And we are so incredibly honored to have you, Madam Vice President.
Glad to be with you. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to start our conversation tonight by thanking both you and the second gentleman for being steadfast supporters of Tzedek.
Who is here? Where is he? We arrived together. I know he's here. There he is.
Mr. Emhoff has been a volunteer with Tzedek.
Yeah.
You've both been donors to our organization, and so clearly advancing civil legal aid is important to both of you. And I'm just curious to hear what's inspired that dedication to promoting access to justice.
Well, let me first of all thank you, Diego, and everyone here for the work you're doing to support Tzedek. Doug and I have, as you said, been actively involved with this organization for many years. And it's my honor to be here tonight for that reason. This is a moment where it has probably emphasized as much as anything the importance of valuing access to justice and recognizing we cannot take it for granted, and that it is something that requires work, effort, and in this case, a fight to ensure that, in particular, the most voiceless, the most vulnerable, have a system, as facilitated often by lawyers, that presents their voice in a place where decisions will be made that affect their life directly. And that, as much as anything, is the spirit behind this concept of access to justice. I decided at a very young age I wanted to be a lawyer. Many of you know this, but in many ways I was inspired by Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Constance Baker Motley, these individuals who, of course, were the architects of the civil rights movement, but had this unique and beautiful ability to, through the practice of law, translate the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of America, and do the work of ensuring, again, that those voices that were impacted and that were important were represented and presented in these places where decisions will be made that impact their lives. So access to justice is fundamentally about that, but in particular, when we talk about and use the phrase access to justice, I'd like to put the emphasis for this conversation on access. And therefore recognizing that we support access to justice because we know that many people do not have access. And so we as a community of people who believe in the importance of that have to then facilitate it. And that, of course, is the work of this organization, to facilitate access to justice, in particular for those who otherwise don't have access, but deserve it, have a right to it. And so at this moment, there are so many voices that are not being heard, that are being stifled. We're living in a moment where there's this perverse notion that the measure of the strength of an individual is based on who you beat down instead of who you lift up. And the work of everyone here is about understanding that, no, the true measure of the strength is based on having some level of empathy, not as a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. Having some level of at least curiosity, much less concern about the well-being of other people, and then taking it upon oneself or one's community to then have a sense of duty to actually do something that is about uplifting their condition, especially when they are suffering. And again, I thank everyone here for that work that you are doing.
Thank you for that. I'm reminded of a phrase that you used in your book, the hope, the idea of, folks, if you walk up to somebody and you look at them, you're not seeing a stranger, you're seeing a neighbor. And I think that resonates with what you have just said.
Yes, that it is my hope and wish and prayer that we will be a society. I do believe that at our core we are, but a society that in the face of a stranger, you see a neighbor. And if we can get to that point or work toward that, oh, what a stronger and better place we will create.
Thank you. Well, and as you've hinted at, You mentioned, in today's world, there are so many social movements, political change, so much technological change. And at Tzedek, we spend a lot of time thinking about change and how it's impacting our community members, how there's an ever-growing population of older community members, the criminalization of poverty, and even the role of AI in how we deliver legal services.
Sure.
What do you think is the most important issue facing leaders in the next few years?
Well, of course, there are many. I think a conversation that is ever present for many of us is the righteous concern about the proliferation of mis and disinformation. But at its core, then, the concern about that, I believe, is rooted in what should be one of our highest priorities, which is working on trust. I've been traveling, of course, throughout my career, but in this last year, I've been traveling the country. And I will share with the friends here, what I am seeing suggests to me that we as a country right now are dealing with probably the highest level of distrust that I can remember ever seeing between and among the American people. Distrust between and among the American people. And I'm not speaking of, can I trust that I can leave my front door unlocked? But can I trust that you are not a threat to my very existence? This is happening in America. And I think we would all agree it is something that should create a sense of urgency for us about just recognizing that this is not good. And so how do we then work on this issue? And how do we develop and work on this issue of trust? And I do believe that there is obviously a role and a responsibility for leaders at the highest level. But I also think there is great power in each one of us in the context of our lives and our networks, if you will, be it our family, our neighbors, our coworkers. I've been thinking of it a lot in terms of just a neighbor-to-neighbor approach, where, in politics, when you're running a campaign, people will say, you got to figure out how you present opinion leaders so that people who are voting will trust what they're being told and will then pay attention to it and act on it. And, so people spend millions of dollars on billboards and television commercials. But what those people will also tell you is the most effective sources of information that people trust are the people they know. The people in their family, their friends, their coworkers. And so when I think about this relationship of trust and the work we need to do, I think about the power of everyday people to work on this. I heard I don't know if it was the MC, the person who was here speaking about your daughter. Tell her I said congratulations. I don't know who you are. I just heard your voice, but it was a wonderful story. But the point that you made, wonderful person, about the people who voted differently than us, okay, in the last election in 24. Well, for some of us, we've had conversations with people who voted differently than us, and I use that word lightly. It may have been a conversation, it may have taken on a different level. And I know. But here's what I would challenge us to consider. Walking away from those conversations, many of us have made assumptions about the values, the morals, or the principles that person who voted differently than us, that what their values may be and how they are different than our own. I would challenge us to, before we go to that place, ask this question: are we assuming that we and they are working with the same information? I think one of the biggest challenges for us right now is recognizing that we're not all working with the same information. The way that we have so diversified sources and streams of information and have almost calcified around the silos in which we are comfortable has led to, I think, a lot of examples of where we are just working with a different set of information. I purposely did not say a different set of facts because 2 + 2 = 4 every day and all day long. But I think there is work to do, is ultimately my point. And the work to be done is by all of us. And there is no effort that could be too small or too great in this regard. But I do believe it's one of the biggest challenges that we face right now is this issue of distrust between and among the American people.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Okay.
And what I'd like to focus on is being a public servant.
Okay.
In your book, you describe your career as being one of serving and being a public servant. At this moment in time, socially, politically, legally, in terms of the environment that we're in, what does public service really ask of all of us?
You know, Diego, I've been thinking a lot about what do the solutions look like to where we are now, and through the lens of what that would be, both in terms of, yes, politics, policy, how we think about the social contract. I think, and I'm going to offer this to the friends here, I think we need to invest in what I have been calling a project of civic renewal. A project of civic renewal. A project whereby we reclaim what I think we have naturally grown up believing is an attribute of the strength of society in our country, but which has deteriorated over some significant period of time. And so how can we think of what we can each do and advocate and demand around reclaiming some sense of civic pride based on a collective identity as Americans? How can we reclaim this concept of what we must do in terms of, as I said earlier, the social contract and the duty that we have to one another in the context of a community? And that gets back to my point about a neighbor-to-neighbor approach. What we can do to invest in communities around, whether it be a national service project, what are we doing in terms of investing in the importance of communicating all work has value? What are we doing in terms of prioritizing as one of our principles the dignity of all of humanity and the duty that we each have to one another to fight for that? I think that there's some real work to be done that transcends an election, that transcends whatever may be the topic of this moment, a topic that is the source of fear or anger or frustration. There's some deep work to be done in our country. And while we will address the crises of the moment, and Beth Tzedek, of course, does this every day, we can walk and chew gum. So let's also pay attention to, I was talking to some friends, Doug's law firm partners are here, and we've been talking about our children. We were just having a very long conversation about Gen Z. I'm sure many of us are having that conversation. And, I've been thinking a lot about this in the context of Gen Z. Just for all the boomers here, you may or may not know, Gen Z is demographically a larger population than boomers. Gen Z is about age 13 through about age 29. We have some Gen Zers here, like shout out to you. They have only known the climate crisis. They went through significant periods of their education which they lost, and socialization which they lost because of the pandemic. It is estimated that Gen Z in their lifetime will have as many as 12 jobs. Whereas most of us, when we came out of high school or college, the job we took is the job we retired from. If you talk with someone who is college age, whether they are in college or at trade school, they will tell you that their fear is that whatever they are learning right now will be obsolete in a matter of a couple of years. And so when I talk about the investment in our country, I have, as much as anything, them as an example in mind. What are we doing right now to sow the seeds, to plant the seeds, if you will, for the next 10, 20, 30 years around what our country will be, and also who we are as Americans and how we will define what we think that means, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. I think these are the challenges that we collectively face. But again, I think Tzedek is doing some of the most extraordinary job of reminding us of our most important values and principles and morals when it comes to protecting and defending the dignity of all people. So I thank you all for the work you do. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Madden Lopez, and I'm the Executive Director and founder of Project Q Salon Community Center.
I'm Panita Jansa, Directing Attorney at the Thai Community Development Center.
My name is Susan Belgrave, and I'm the Senior Director of Senior and Multi-Purpose Centers at Jewish Family Service LA.
At Project Q, we supply queer youth of color experiencing homelessness with mentorship, haircuts, and a way to experience their future.
At Thai CDC, our mission is to increase the economic mobility of Thais and other ethnic minorities in the greater LA area.
Each year, our compassionate staff provides quality care to tens of thousands of clients, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, gender preference, or sexual orientation. We provide mental health services, we feed the hungry, we provide services for older adults, as well as Holocaust survivors, and we counsel children and their families.
We are so thrilled to partner with Tzedek Transgender Legal Project to make sure that our youth and clients have access to equal housing, healthcare, and jobs.
We're thrilled to partner with Tzedek's Employment Rights Project to ensure that our amazing essential workers are paid fair wages and work in safe conditions.
We are so proud to partner with Tzedek so our clients can have equal access under the law.
Please make a gift tonight by scanning the QR code on your table and support our vital work.
Scan the QR code on your table or text Justice 2026 to 41444. Help us raise $130,000 to underwrite an attorney position at Tzedek. Text Justice 2026 to 41444. Thank you. Tonight, we are honored to have the Jack H. Skirball Community Justice Award presented by Project Director at the UCLA Labor Center and faculty member at UCLA Labor Studies and the UCLA School of Law, Victor Narro.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm coming right after Vice President Kamala Harris and Diego, so I'm very nervous about this moment. So hopefully I won't disappoint you with my presentation. But I'm grateful in this moment for the opportunity to share about Yvonne and her work and her qualities that make her so deserving of this award. I have known Yvonne since she was a law student at and collaborated with us on projects at the Labor Center. Over the years, Yvonne has built an extraordinary record of service. She played a central role in strengthening policy for the Los Angeles Worker Center Network, ensuring the more effective implementation of the living wage ordinance and partnership with the Office of Wage Standards to improve enforcement. She provided critical legal services to garment workers, car wash workers, and other immigrant workers, communities that are too often overlooked and underserved. She helped lead clinics for deferred action for labor enforcement, and she worked with immigrant families to prepare for the unthinkable, supporting them through deportation planning and offering power of attorney guidance. While Yvonne's accomplishments are remarkable, is her internal qualities that truly define her. You know, the last 10 years at the Labor Center, I've been studying emotions, the emotional intelligence. It's one of my areas of studies. And I try to really research the qualities inside of us that make us genuine and make us authentic as human beings. And I want to share some of these qualities about Yvonne. There's a humility in her, the love and joy, patience, kindness, generosity, and gentleness. She strives to practice these qualities in her work, and I have witnessed this every day with their working with Yvonne. Her work is authentic. She never expects applause or praise, which is why I'm so honored to praise her tonight. She is fully present for the person seeking justice, and she brings herself fully into her daily work and her service. Yvonne invests her efforts in the process of her work without focusing on the outcome. For her, it's the process that really matters. She slows it down. She really slows it down so she sees every activity and task as an opportunity to connect her deeply with our humanity. She allows her humility to take her to a deeper place where she really is able to connect deeply with the suffering of others. As an academic researcher, I also do a lot of field work, so I surveyed a few others about Yvonne, and I'm going to offer you a couple of the responses from my survey. A partner at the Clean Car Wash Worker Center said this about Yvonne. Yvonne's ingenuity and empathy have created essential opportunities for low-wage workers that previously did not exist. Most recently, she led efforts to identify legal services providers to offer pro bono services to car wash workers that qualify for the Deferred Action for Labor Enforcement program. Under her leadership, the Clean Car Wash Worker Center was able to help 22 car wash workers obtain this vital protection. These protections became even more important and even more significant following the direct attack on car wash workers during the immigration raids that began last June. Thanks to Yvonne's dedicated efforts and advocacy, many workers safely returned home after encountering federal agents at their jobs or in the streets. And this is what a close friend of Yvonne's said about her. I met Yvonne when we were teenagers. Little did I know that she would become one of the most treasured lifelong friends. What I love most about her is her generosity, her heart for humanity, her sage wisdom, and her ability to always find more to give as she cares for her friends, family, and the community with love. During moments in my life when I have been the most challenged, most broken, most in need, Yvonne has embraced me and helped me get back up. During my moments of the most joy, pride, and accomplishment, Yvonne has always been there to celebrate me. She is part of my chosen family. She is beautiful inside and out, and her embrace for justice and humanity benefits her clients, her colleagues, and of course, her family and friends. So now I would like to turn your attention to a video that was created that shares with you some of Yvonne's own words.
We have some fruit. I am married to Joaquin Medrano, and we have 2 kids. She's very kind, very lovable with everyone except her brother. Did you wash her hands? Yes. Joaquin is very silly. His idol is Bart Simpson. Growing up, both of my parents were just great advocates, not only for themselves, but for others. I mean, it's the way that immigrants live in this country, right? And that was instilled in me from an early age. So my first legal job after graduating law school was as the legal organizer with the Clean Car Wash campaign.
So the Clean Car Wash campaign goes back to 1998. I had a crisis. I had all these workers. They had wage and hour violations. They had health and safety violations. I think 25 to 30% of the car wash workers were living only on tips. And so we needed to eradicate that kind of exploitation, that kind of system. So the organization reached out immediately. It was Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles and Tzedek.
It's hard to have an attorney see the organizing perspective, what this means for workers and what workers want to accomplish. And I think that was a really good shaping for Yvonne's career. And seeing her go from that to working at Tzedek, I was like, yes.
Things have changed a lot this year. The raids and the kidnapping of workers that we're seeing, it's very much our clients. And so to see a worker take that step and want to fight for what is right, it's why I keep doing the work that I do and why I want to do it for as long as I can.
But this is what the labor commissioner decisions look like.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm a full-time caregiver. Being a caregiver gives me really a very a fulfillment, especially when I see my client happy.
I have one client. She's owed hundreds of thousands of dollars in wages because she was providing 24-hour care.
It makes me sad and it makes me mad because most of the caregivers are mothers who come here from the Philippines in order for us to be able to send money back home so that our family would have a better life. When I talk to the caregivers about the workers' rights, and they would just tell me, it's better than nothing. And I would always tell them, how can we change our industry? I was asked to speak in a press conference, and it so happened that Attorney Yvonne was there also. So that was the first time that I was introduced that this is Attorney Yvonne of Tzedek. She would be able to help you.
Emily has been such a strong advocate that the Filipino Worker Center has brought her on as an advocate on their team. I will support her, I will stand by her, I will do everything that I need to do as an attorney, but she's advocating for herself. So interestingly, most of our clients have experienced wage theft, and most of them haven't been getting paid minimum wage for a long time when they come to us. And what really pushes them to file a claim or to take action is some unfairness. So the employer being extra rude to them, their employer being really unfair to somebody else. So at that point, they're like, that's where a lot of the workers draw the line.
My name is Paola. I got here when I was 14 years old, and I started working in a garment factories.
So I first met Paola at a gathering in a park that the Garment Worker Center was hosting for employees. As a trans woman, she was getting harassed. She was receiving less hours anytime she complained, when she was misgendered. And interestingly, it was also her colleagues, right, that were not culturally sensitive.
Puedo decir burlas, muy discretamente lo hacían a algunas personas y pues en ese momento emocionalmente estaba muy mal y me afectaba.
Factually, it was a perfect case. She had asked in writing multiple times that she be respected, that she be gendered correctly, that she would be allowed to use the restroom that she would like, and yet the response was to be dismissive and to continue to allow this environment of harassment every day. And eventually she wasn't given any more work. She was just let go, and she's like, can they do this? I'm like, well, no, they can't do this, and this is illegal, and they owe you a lot of money. And she's like, well, yeah, they do, but I don't want to do this if it's not going to result in a better place of employment for everybody. And so we filed the civil rights complaint, and we were able to obtain a resolution that included requiring the employer to train all of their employees by Trans Latina, which is an amazing organization.
Si yo me los volviera a encontrar, no les tengo ningún resentimiento, más que solo los vería a los ojos y hasta les daría las gracias por haberme tratado de ese modo, porque sacaron en mí una fuerza que yo no sabía que lo tenía.
Thanks to her, so many workers were educated. She left that workplace way better than the way she found it. As employment rights attorneys, we see a lot of really sad things, a lot of people not recognizing people's humanity. And I think that's what gets hard. And at the same time, we keep fighting because there's a Paola out there who's gonna make a change. There's a car wash worker who's gonna know about their rights and then stand up for themselves the next day, and that's happened. There's gonna be tears, there's gonna be failures, and that's life. And there's also gonna be wins, and those make it all worth it.
So finally, I just want to share a few words about what Yvonne has meant for me as a person. I'm so grateful that our life journeys connected with each other. I have deep joy when I can work with her, when I can collaborate with her. I now gauge with her and tap into her wisdom about a lot of the important issues that impacted our communities today. And I look forward, to continue my work journey with Yvonne. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our Jack H. Skirball Community Justice Award recipient, Yvonne Medrano.
Thank you so much. I just want to take a second. The 10-year-old me would be so proud of this moment. I'm sharing a stage, with the vice president, first female vice president, so thank you. Thank you for making this happen. So I have to admit, as a workers' rights advocate, getting an award from my employer may not be the best for my street cred, but as the Employment Rights Project knows, we like to see good employers, and Tzedek is a good employer. And that might be because of the solid leadership, shout out to our president, our strong Jewish principles that have remained pillars in our mission. But for me, it always goes back to the workers. Tzedek has 130 advocates who wake up every morning determined to make the world a better place. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Tzedek has one of the strongest and longest standing unions in legal aid. Woo, shout out AFSCME. For many of us, this past year has been the most difficult, not only of our careers, but of our lives. We've seen our most vulnerable friends, neighbors, and clients become targets. The Employment Rights Project focuses on serving workers who face the greatest wage theft and retaliation in Los Angeles, including day laborers and car wash workers. The very same people that are being targeted today because of the color of their skin and because of the work that they do. And it's devastating, and it's tragic and sad. And we also can't not do something about it. And I'm so proud that Tzedek is doing so much. And I recognize that we're not doing it alone. Decades ago, Tzedek's board faced an impossible choice: accept federal funding that would exclude undocumented clients, or stay true to our mission to always find a place, to our mission to serve the stranger in a strange land. And they chose to welcome the stranger. And because of, yes, that's it. And because of that decision, last summer, when LA needed to protect its workers the most, Tzedek was able to stand side by side with our community. LA County is home to over 3.5 million immigrants. Today, Tzedek is the only legal service provider in LA County that can represent workers, all workers, regardless of status. Our employment rights team, our small team of 5 mighty attorneys and 2 essential staff support, carries that responsibility every day. That's 7 people to help workers in a county of almost 10 million. Many of you have taken on pro bono cases, done hearings for us, volunteered at our clinics, and that gives our clients hope. And it also reminds us that we are not alone. Our small staff of 7 is multiplied every time you all help, every time you become our pro bono volunteers, and we're very thankful for our community partners and foundational support. Over the past few months, one saying has become more true than ever: solo el pueblo salva el pueblo. Only the community will save the community. And this has never been more true. No one attorney, no one donor, organizer, elected official can do it alone. But together we will get through this. And I'm lucky to have my home community here today with me, my parents, my in-laws, my sisters, my husband, and my beautiful kids. Special shout out to my mother-in-law for sewing my skirt today. Thank you. From an early age, I realized that relying on each other is what gives us strength and hope. And I'm also very lucky to have my Tzedek colleagues as part of my community. When our clients started to be kidnapped, we didn't know what to do. We're workers' rights attorneys. So we reached out to our Tzedek colleagues, our immigration team, and our leaving a legacy planning team. And together we built clinics where workers can prepare for deportation and give their families a peace of mind that they deserve. Our small business team created toolkits used by hundreds of employers to better protect workers. And that is what community looks like: asking for help, showing up, and building what we need together. Not one gesture is going to save our democracy, but a lot of common acts will. Just like that Tzedek board in the 90s probably couldn't imagine that this moment in time, how much their bravery and foresight would result in thousands of Angelinos being treated with the dignity that all humans deserve. And I can promise you that your support today will have ripple effects beyond what you can imagine. And I'd be remiss not to acknowledge that our buying power is probably our strongest tool. So buy from your fruit vendors, buy from the flowers off the freeway, tip your car wash workers a little extra, and if you can, donate to Tzedek. Because solo el pueblo salva el pueblo, and I know that together we will make sure that we see better days for all. Thank you.
Join us in welcoming back to the stage Luis Lainer, President and CEO of Tzedek, Diego Cartagena.
Amy, I apologize. Folks, if you don't remember Amy, our Skirball honoree from last year, she just had a moment of panic because she couldn't find me. She didn't know where I was. Well, it's good to be up here again in front of you all again. I'm going to try to be brief because I know I stand between you and dinner, but I want to talk a little bit about justice and remind us all that justice never arrives all at once. It didn't land fully formed in our Constitution, and it doesn't land fully formed through our laws. As Rabbi Heschel once said, justice takes shape through the common deed, through the everyday choices we make when we respond to the urgent need of our communities. In other words, justice cannot merely be an idea. It requires an action. And while the deeds may be common, their impact can be profound. When my family fled to the United States to escape a brutal civil war, justice did not arrive as a decree or a policy. It arrived in the form of my aunt, who sponsored and welcomed us into her home. It was a simple act with profound impact. Her choice afforded us safety instead of fear, possibility instead of uncertainty, and started us down the path towards citizenship. Every day across Los Angeles, people face moments of crisis that threaten their safety and dignity. A family faces an unlawful eviction with nowhere to go but the streets. A Holocaust survivor struggles to pay for medication due to complications with her benefits. A 6-year-old immigrant must face a judge with no representation. These are moments when a legal decision will determine whether someone sleeps safely, is healthy, or can remain in the U.S. free from abuse. In these moments, justice often depends on one simple question: do you have a lawyer? And that usually translates to, can you afford a lawyer? The promise of equal justice under the law rings hollow when access to legal help depends on one's income. Without representation, the law can be a labyrinth of dead ends and wrong turns. Some can purchase their way out, but those without money, they are left confused, intimidated, and unheard as their belongings are placed on the sidewalk, their medication dwindles, or their chance at a better life disappears as they are ordered to return to a country where they have only known hunger, poverty, and abuse. And we have watched the rollout of policies that undermine our communities, policies that deprive people of access to necessary health treatment, policies that tear at the morality and spirit that hold our democracy together as they tear families apart. Fortunately, the people here tonight are not numb to this. We refuse to look away from these injustices. We do not accept these policies or their cruelty. Tzedek recognizes the urgency and we respond. To those who come to our doors, we say, you are not alone. Your voice matters. Your life and your life's work is worth defending. Our advocates meet their clients' legal crisis with knowledge, compassion, and advocacy. Together with the volunteers from firms represented here tonight, they take action and create extraordinary change. Imagine a team of attorneys from an international law firm stepping up, not just as professionals, but as neighbors, to stand beside a Spanish-speaking homeowner who, while sick in the hospital, was tricked into signing away title to the home she had worked so hard to purchase. Tricked into signing the paperwork by her own estranged daughter, who, a few weeks later, returned to the hospital to serve her mother with eviction paperwork. The volunteer attorneys and our staff tried that case in court and secured an order returning title of the home to our client. They use the skills they deploy on a regular basis for any of their clients, common deeds. But for our client, their work was a profound act of justice that changed the course of her life. And let me be clear, this was not charity. This was an act of solidarity. It was action when recognizing that when one person is denied justice, our entire community suffers, and that it is up to us to make justice real. And so the question before us is not whether injustice exists. We know it does. The question is whether we will allow the law to remain a barrier or instead make it a bridge. Will we be spectators to suffering or participants in the work required to repair the world? Our communities are incredibly lucky because in the room are the people who know the answers to these questions, and we know we do not stand alone in this work. Every time one of you volunteers, donates, hosts a fundraiser, or partners with us, justice becomes real. These acts may not always make headlines or feel heroic, but they are the common deeds Heschel spoke of, the persistent actions that turn moral vision into lived reality. Justice indeed takes shape through our common deeds, and so we urge you to take action today. Make justice a reality and donate through the simple yet powerful act of sending a text message. When you support Tzedek, you move our communities closer to the world our moral traditions demand by making sure a lawyer will be there to help our neighbors. You will make possible the work required to support the thousands of volunteers every year that donate tens of thousands of hours in the community, working side by side with our advocates. Through the simple act of giving through tonight's Text to Give campaign, you are taking action and making justice real for the 82,000 individuals and families that Tzedek touches each year. If we reach $150,000 tonight, you will have underwritten the cost of a program advocate like our Skirball honoree, Yvonne Medrano, in support of the work of protecting our clients. Please, take the simple but heroic act of taking out your phones and texting Justice 2026 to 41444, or use the QR code on the slip of paper at your table to visit our donation page. You can even use the donation envelopes on your table. Your donation here tonight will propel us towards a world where justice is not reserved for the few, but made real for all. Thank you all, and we'll be back after dinner.
Please welcome to the stage two dedicated Tzedek leaders, Associate Vice President of Justice for Children and Families, Erickson Albrecht, and Carry the Torch Forward Campaign Manager, Susan Unger.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the interruption. This will be fairly quick because our State of the Union seems to be very calm. Everything is easygoing. And our nation has chosen to go high, so there's not much to talk about tonight. I'm Susan Unger, the Carrying the Torch Forward campaign manager at Tzedek.
And I'm Erickson Albrecht, Associate Vice President of Justice. Thank you. Associate Vice President of Justice for Children and Families here at Tzedek. It's an honor to stand here tonight in this room filled with people who believe that justice should not depend on someone's income, immigration status, age, or zip code.
Tonight, you heard from Vice President Kamala Harris about the intersection of law and service. And that intersection is exactly where Tzedek lives every single day.
It lives in the East LA apartment of a mom who, with our advocacy, avoided an illegal eviction. It lives in the hands of a Holocaust survivor securing a vital pension thanks to the knowledge and tenacity of our Holocaust services team. And it lives in the relief of a senior who can finally afford medication because our attorneys secured the Medi-Cal benefits she was denied.
And here's the truth. None of this happens without you. There's no government contract that covers everything we do. There's no single foundation that carries this work. It is powered by this room, by your generosity, and by your belief that equal justice under the law must mean something tangible. We had set our Text to Give goal at $50,000, and it would to help us respond to the most urgent needs in our communities in 2026. But thanks to everyone in this room, we are already at $125,417. So we would love to see if we can beat our record from last year of $150,000 tonight.
So, please take out your phones and text Justice 2026 to 41444. Or you can just scan the QR code on your table. Every donation, no matter the size, helps us to continue our mission and strengthens our ability to stand up for justice. That's Justice 2026 to 41444.
If you're having trouble getting a signal, there's Wi-Fi in the room. And if that doesn't work, one of Tzedek's staff or volunteers can help you and give you a hand. If you've already given tonight, thank you, truly. And if you're considering a stretch gift, this would be your moment.
Thank you all for coming tonight and ensuring that Tzedek can continue protecting the most vulnerable individuals and families in Los Angeles.
With so much gratitude, we officially return you to dinner, eat, drink, and thank you so much for carrying the torch forward with us.
Presenting tonight's Rose L. Schiff Commitment to Justice Award is Real 92.3 Program Director and iHeartMedia President of Hip Hop and R&B Programming Strategy, Doc Winter.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for having us. My team is here. Sans baseball caps and Jordans. We cleaned up to come and accept this prestigious award, so thank you so much for having us. It was a cold January day in New York in 2015. I was in a meeting with the Prince of Petty, we like to call him, 50 Cent, actually, and I had a phone call that would change hip-hop radio in Los Angeles and change my life. For weeks, we had been quietly trying to convince a radio legend to make a move, and if you know Big Boy, you know loyalty isn't just something he talks about, it's actually who he is. So when I got the call that he had agreed to come over from MS Broadcasting to iHeartMedia, I was excited. Then they added, you're also going to be moving to Los Angeles to program the radio station. And that's when it got real. We had a bold vision. We weren't launching just another radio station. We were launching a real hip-hop radio station in Los Angeles. Real music, real culture, real voices. We even had the name ready. It was actually 92.3 The Beat. Marketing was finished, billboards were ready, 10,000 songs in a row, commercial-free, energy was high. And then an attorney called and said, small problem, you don't own the trademark for the name The Beat in Los Angeles. This was 2 days before the launch. I called the company that owned the trademark and I said, I don't have time for a long story. We're launching in LA, you own the name, how much is it gonna cost? He didn't give me an answer. He kind of basically tried to negotiate more radio stations around the country. And I said, sir, respectfully, I asked for a number. I didn't get one. We hung up. I walked back in the room and told my team, we launch in 48 hours and we need a new name. How did the pressure came, clarity, and the name Real 92.3, the radio station we launched at 9:23 on February 6th of 2015. Because that's who we are and who we're determined to be. But here's the truth, the name didn't make the station, the voices did. From day one, our mission was bigger than just a playlist. Music is the foundation, of course, but right above it, the voice, trusted voices. Voices that entertain, but also inform, voices that show up when the community needs something more than a song. Radio reaches people in their most everyday moments in traffic, on your job, at home with your families, and with that reach comes responsibility. Big Boy, Mariana, Jay Cruz, Jackie Ramirez, Nico, Bootleg Kev, DJ AO, and the rest of our on-air team understand this, and they don't just talk to Los Angeles, they listen to Los Angeles as well. They reflect it, they defend it, they amplify it, and in moments when our communities have needed clarity, compassion, or connection, they use that microphone with purpose, and that's why tonight feels aligned. The Rose L. Schiff Commitment to Justice Award isn't about ratings or revenue. It's about impact, it's about advocacy, it's about making sure people who might otherwise go unheard know someone is paying attention. So thank you to Tzedek for recognizing not just the platform, but the responsibility that comes with it. Please turn your attention to the screen.
It's been a tough year. It's been a tough year for all of us, ourselves included. There's no shame in needing help, and that's why we're here.
Here we go, mics are on in 3, 2, 1, mics are on.
Real 92.3 is a hip-hop radio station. It's a station that appeals to Latinos, African Americans, whites that love hip hop music.
All right, let's do that.
Hip hop started in the community. It started in the Bronx in New York. You know, that is the base of the culture of hip hop. It's always been rooted in talking about rights, if there's any injustices or, you know, any kind of brutality, things of that nature, that is the base of hip hop.
So we have a lot of community events coming up within the next few weeks.
It's always been radio's job to be the microphone to the community, to come up with ideas. We love to visit the parade, and a lot of times when we go out into the community, that's when we're given the ideas to, hey, let's do this, because we see that there's a need.
Real 92.3, LA's new home for hip hop. I come from being in a family that needed food or shelter. And so I've been there, I've done that, and I know how certain things feel. And so I make sure that I go out. And it's not about numbers, it's not about ratings, it's about really rolling your sleeves up.
When the wildfires occurred here in Los Angeles, we had a meeting and said, okay, what can we do? How can we help? What organizations are we tied with? Staff members, let's create a schedule. Everyone goes out there and volunteers, come back on the air, we talk about it because we're going back and we want to promote volunteering.
Let's see. What do you want to hear? When the ice raids were happening, that really affected me because, you know, I'm Latina from LA. I'm closer to it than maybe some more people that work here. So in the group chat, I just made sure that I let everybody know how important it was for us to show up. And sure enough, you know, before you know it, at the next demonstration that was held in LA, we were all there front and center.
When the ice raids were going on, like, we reminded people, you know, don't open your doors. And we brought a lawyer in so he can talk about some of their rights.
You know what, I do find a lot of similarities with Beit Tzedek and then our radio station, even just us. We provide some help sometimes with whatever information we have, but there's so many calls when it comes to needing help, and I feel like the correlation between both of us is just that we're always trying to find justice for that person.
You know, with a lot of the political stance now too, even though, yeah, I am a person of color and I could be easily targeted as well, I know that using my voice, that I could help somebody else. It's something as simple as going to the Mexican Independence Day Parade with the whole station, which is the first time we've ever done it this year. That made me feel so proud.
I feel like it's my job to speak up on, you know, our mental health, going to therapy, because we go through things. And since it's not something that's introduced, the reason why I went to therapy was because I couldn't describe how I was feeling, because I couldn't express my emotions, because that's not what was taught in my household.
I tell people all the time that I'm most proud of our vision clinics because it really struck home for me. I'm a big advocate of education. The idea that so many kids were going to school and could not see well, it just struck me.
We are rolling 3, 2, 1. The 10th annual Cruise Cares Toy Drive is back, and we're bringing
I've always wanted to be in a position where I can give more than I have, and that's what we've been doing with Cruise Cares. We were raising funds and toys for kids from a lot of comedians, and as the economy got tougher, we started coming out of our own pocket and getting creative and hosting a comedy show every year that brought in funds. And as long as we can continue to give back, and as long as we're breathing, we're going to continue to do so.
What can you do for your community? When you look at the full picture of, you know, the world or the United States, and then you start to break it down, California, LA counties, to where it gets down to your block or to your neighbor, whatever you can do, then that's what you jump in and you help out.
Accepting the award on behalf of Real 92.3 and iHeart LA, I'd like to introduce you to a gentleman who's probably been waking you up for near 30 years, keeping it real, using his voice for purpose, the voice of LA. Please welcome Big Boy.
Please keep standing. I'm getting some social media content. You got it, Mariana? We good? All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. First off, I want to thank everybody for allowing us to come here. On behalf of Real 92.3 and our entire team, our listeners, our families, and the city we love so much, thank you to Tzedek for this incredible honor. We are more than proud to receive the Rose L. Schiff Commitment to Justice Award. To us, it means showing up. Not only does it mean showing up, it means using your voice when it matters most. And that's what we try to do every single day at iHeart and Real 92.3. Now, radio gave me a microphone, but Los Angeles gave me a purpose. The city has poured into me for decades, and Real 92.3 has always believed that if the community, if they trust you and they give you your ears, give you their ears, then we must trust. And we must make sure that our actions are louder than our words. Whether it's helping families during the holidays, supporting small businesses, amplifying voices that don't always get heard, or standing up for justice. We don't just see that as an obligation, we see that as a responsibility. Justice isn't just a word, it's work. And organizations like Tzedek prove that every single day. You fight for people who might not otherwise have the voice, or they have to sit and fight those battles alone. And that right there is extremely powerful. I also want to congratulate my fellow honorees tonight. Now, the room is filled with leaders, advocates, change makers, people who don't just wait for someone else to fix things. We step in, we lean forward, you care, and it's an honor to stand alongside you. Now, awards are beautiful, but impact is better. And I promise you, this recognition that we receive tonight, it doesn't slow us down. It fuels us, fuels the entire staff at Real 92.3. Now, Real 92.3 will continue to use our platform to uplift the community, to advocate for fairness, to celebrate culture, and to make sure our city knows that we are stronger together than we would ever be if we were divided. Now, being a kid from Los Angeles, and Los Angeles raised me, Real 92.3 rides for LA, and Tzedek, thank you for reminding all of us what commitment to justice truly looks like. God bless you. Thank you for your time. Love to you all, and let's keep doing the work. Thank you so much.
Please put your hands together as he presents tonight's Luis Lainer Founders Award, former Secretary of Homeland Security, the Honorable Alejandro N. Mayorkas.
Good evening. Thank you. Our children are a message we send into a world that one day we ourselves might not see. If you happen to catch the talented jazz ensemble's music during this evening's reception, if you have met the ambassadors of Our Big Kitchen LA who help feed the hungry, a volunteer of Friendship Circle who teaches chess to neurodivergent children, a teenage member of the Holocaust Museum of Los Angeles, you will have met one of the most beautiful messages that Ellen and Dan Shallman have sent into our world today and to build its better future for tomorrow. In recognizing and celebrating the contributions of Dan this evening, we recognize and celebrate the family. Spouses, siblings, children, and of course parents, those active in our lives today and those through the blessing of their memory. I first met Dan more than 26 years ago when I interviewed him for the position of Assistant United States Attorney in the Central District of California. He came from a family that understood the fragility of life, justice as the bedrock of civilization, and service as a noble calling. He is the grandson of Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe who fled anti-Semitism, political repression, and economic hardship. His father, Bill, served in the Marines and was a career civil servant in the Department of Defense as his mother, Sarah Lee, raised Dan and his 4 siblings while managing a small retail shop in Davenport, Iowa. 26 years ago, Dan sat before me in that interview with impeccable credentials, a graduate of the Business School of the University of Illinois, a law degree from the University of Chicago, and a star litigation associate of Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. My only hesitation was an unasked question, whether he could really direct the investigative efforts of senior law enforcement agents, command the respect of judges, and earn and gain the trust of juries when he didn't even look old enough to drive. For the next nearly 8 years, Dan answered that question resoundingly as he became our go-to federal public corruption prosecutor, handling some of our most sensitive and high-profile investigations. He received one of the Department of Justice's highest honors, the Director's Award, for his leading the successful prosecution of a corrupt local mayor after a 2-year grand jury investigation and a 2-month trial. He prosecuted federal correctional officers in a major corruption sting operation, a real estate developer for paying bribes to a local official, the perpetrators of a human smuggling operation, the mastermind of a sweeping mortgage fraud scheme, and so much more. Special agents sought him out to handle their cases. The judges trusted him to present the law, and juries followed as he led them through the evidence, the compelling evidence that Dan had helped assemble. We are here to support the extraordinary work of Tzedek, the House of Justice. We know that justice is an ideal, and the law is the tool to achieve it. That is a basic tenet that has guided Dan throughout not only his career as a federal prosecutor, but also throughout his work in private practice since, first as a partner at O'Melveny and Myers, and then as the founding partner of Covington and Burling's Los Angeles office. In the private sector, he has vindicated the intellectual property rights of J.K. Rowling, persuaded the Department of Justice to terminate an unfounded criminal investigation of a prominent entertainment company, served as independent counsel for the LA County Board of Supervisors, became lead counsel for a coalition of Jewish groups in a groundbreaking case against the Santa Ana School District for improperly approving a curriculum containing biased content, and served with former Attorney General Eric Holder as special counsel to the California State Legislature. His enduring commitment to the pursuit of justice also, of course, includes his pro bono work. As a member of the Executive Committee of Tzedek, a member of the Board of Directors, advocating on behalf of Jewish families in K-12 schools, and so much more. Please join me now in turning to a short video that the Tzedek team put together to highlight why Dan is so richly deserving of the Tzedek 2026 Luis Lainer Founders Award.
One of my very first memories, I was probably 3 years old. My dad would come home from work and want to watch the Watergate hearings. I'm a little kid, I just wanted to hang with Dad. I don't think I had any epiphanies at the time about abuse of power, but my dad was a civil servant. He believed in government. a government that does things in the right way for the right reasons. There was a small Jewish community in the town I grew up in, and I was one of only 2 or 3 Jews in my graduating class from high school. So I was called a dirty Jew or, a nasty Jew any number of times. And, I learned pretty early on that I had to fight if I wanted that to stop. In 1994, I was fortunate enough to be a summer associate at Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher. And I not only have Gibson Dunn to thank for my first job, but also for bringing me together with an incredible woman. I've been married to Ellen for 24 years, and we have 2 incredible kids, Noah, who's 17 and a junior in high school, and Evie, who is 14 and a 9th grader. We want our kids to think beyond themselves, to build that experience working in the community because of how rewarding it is and because it's part of being Jewish. Tikkun olam is a religious value. Seeking justice for others is a religious value. During my 3rd year at Gibson Dunn, I started interviewing with the U.S. Attorney's Office, which was my dream job.
Hi, I'm Bruce Serby, and I was Dan's trial partner. Dan saw a great Los Angeles Times story about a very corruptly created mayor using his own skills as a lawyer to be on the other side of a dispute from the city that he served and corruptly deliver money to a company that he put into his own sister's name.
It was a long, hard-fought case and then secured what was then the longest sentence against a public official for corruption in office. After leaving the government, I wanted to keep doing something in the public interest. And I remember calling my old friend Mitch Kamen, who was CEO of Tzedek at the time. I said, Mitch, what can I do?
Dan put together an amazing trial advocacy training program, federal prosecutors who had tried cases at the highest levels, training our lawyers on how to try cases for low-income people.
Well, it's been 10 years.
Can you believe it? I remember the first time that I met Dan. I learned that Covington intended to open an office in Los Angeles in December of 2014. And Dan was going to lead our white-collar effort. And at the point, I was cautious about making moves. And I remember sitting down with Dan, and I kind of became full of this conviction that, this is gonna work.
I think we got that subpoena like a week before I joined,
I know.
and then I arrived, and you guys were like, hey, here's a computer.
Dan really cares about making the community around him better. So when he was a prosecutor, he saw abuses of power from people in the community and fought that. Now he's on the defense side. He sees abuses of power from the government side and fights against that too.
In 2016, after Donald Trump was elected president, we were approached about representing the California state legislature, giving it advice as to how to counteract some of the anticipated actions. So I recruited Eric Holder to this. There was some fear that some of our clients might not be happy if we are sort of perceived as the sort of anti-Trump administration firm. And I remember vividly a discussion with our then chair, Tim Hester. He said, we're gonna do this. We're gonna be on the right side of history.
My name is Marcy Lerner Miller. I'm the Director of Legal Investigations at the Brandeis Center. I've been there for about 3 years now. The Jewish community learned that in Santa Ana, one of the largest school districts in California, a curriculum had been approved. We see concern about Zionist control. Jews were depicted as greedy Zionists, colonized minds. An official agenda discussed how to address the Jewish question, which is a term we haven't heard since the Holocaust. And this all went through the process without any discussion in public, which is required by the Brown Act in California.
We were relentless in going after the facts. This is when I used my background as a prosecutor. This was an investigation essentially of public officials and how they acted. And ultimately, the district agreed to remove all of the objectionable material from the curriculum, to conduct further curriculum development in compliance with California's open meeting laws. So it was a huge victory. I was really proud of the work that we did on that case. Talk about justice, justice you shall pursue. Our country is based on that. When the rule of law is eroding in a way where people can't count on getting a fair shake, that's a big problem for our democracy. At Tzedek, it's obviously Jewish values, but it's also about American ideals. It's about the rule of law.
And it's at this time that Tzedek needs people like Dan. And Dan, I applaud your leadership, and I invite you to stay the course and stand up and hold strong, because we need you so much now.
That is a snapshot of why we honor Dan Shallman this evening. It is a snapshot of a career in the law, one dedicated to the betterment of our society and the achievement of that which is righteous. Dan, congratulations and thank you, and everyone, please join me in welcoming to the stage our honoree and my dear friend, Dan Shallman.
Secretary Mayorkas, thank you. I hope I look old enough to drive now. I think the beard, gray hair. Allie, thank you. You are truly the epitome of selfless leadership and selfless service, and our country owes you a deep debt of gratitude. And throughout your entire career in government, you served with humanity and a deep reverence for the rule of law. I admire you so much for that. And I have to say, I personally owe you a deep debt of gratitude. As Allie mentioned, he hired me for the best job a lawyer can ever have, Assistant U.S. Attorney. At least it used to be the best job. But there is one part of the story that Allie didn't mention. And you see, when Allie hired me, it was the summer of 1999. And I was a third year at a great law firm, Gibson Dunn. We had this summer associate from Stanford that year, and it is safe to say I was smitten. And you may all choose to believe this or not, but I did not act upon those feelings while I was still employed by Gibson Dunn. It was only after I got a call from then U.S. Attorney Allie Mayorkas to offer me a job that I went ahead and asked her out. And we've been together ever since. The smartest, most capable, most beautiful person I've ever known, the magnificent Ellen Smook Shallman. Allie, I owe you so much. Thank you, brother. Being a Founders Award recipient is certainly a great honor, but there is nothing that makes me prouder than being husband to Ellen and father to two incredible kids, Noah and Evie. You three inspire me to be better every single day. It is an honor to share the stage tonight with Yvonne Medrano and iHeart 92.3. Yvonne, I'm blown away. Your work on behalf of workers in this community truly matters. And we are all here tonight to make sure you and the entire team at Tzedek have the resources to continue to give voice to the powerless in our community. Congratulations. To the team at Real 92.3, I gotta say, I don't think I could have imagined while I was growing up in Rock Island, Illinois, that I would someday headline an event with Big Boy and LA's new home for hip hop. But to quote the great Chicago poet, Chancellor Bennett, it seems like blessings keep falling in my lap. A Real 92.3, you are a blessing to Los Angeles, and we are so proud to celebrate with you tonight. What a blessing to have Vice President Harris here tonight, along with my dear friend and longtime friend of Tzedek, Doug Emhoff. We thank the Vice President for her steady commitment to legal services and to the idea that access to justice should never depend on your zip code. I also want to thank Mayor Bass, who had to leave because of a public safety incident tonight. I want to thank Mayor Bass for being here, for standing with Bet Tzedek for so many years, and kudos to the mayor on hiring a great chief of staff, our friend Mitch Kamen, former Bet Tzedek CEO. All right, so the running joke in Shallman world over the past few weeks, and actually tonight I've heard this a lot, has been that this is my second bar mitzvah. Okay. Got the cringy video montage, everybody's writing checks or texting to give, please text to give, and I've got to give a little sermon. So here we are, okay? And I'm going to start with a story about the actual Dan Shallman bar mitzvah. It was the Friday night before the service, and to be honest, I left the speech to the last minute. Okay. Fortunately, my big brother John offered to help, and even at 19, the future political consultant had a gift for telling other people what to say. And John told me a story he had heard on a trip to Israel, and he said, "Why don't you try this, brother?" So I did. It was a story about a little Jewish boy named Jacob from a secular family, not religious at all. And one weekend, Jacob's parents took him to stay at his Orthodox grandparents' house. And Jacob got a crash course that weekend in Jewish religious observance. They observed Shabbat, they walked to temple, they ate kosher, said all the prayers. And when Sunday came around, Jacob's parents came to pick him up. And as he was leaving, Jacob gave his grandparents a hug. He said, "Goodbye, Bubby, goodbye, Zadie." He then reached up, kissed the mezuzah on the door with his two fingers, and said, "Goodbye, God." Maybe a little heavy for a bar mitzvah speech, but there was a point. I wasn't going to walk out of Tri-City Jewish Center that day and say goodbye, God, or goodbye to the Jewish people, or goodbye to the traditions and values of being Jewish. I made a commitment that day, and I've tried to live up to it. Not a commitment to be the most observant Jew, I surely haven't been, but it was a promise to live our Jewish values and to live proudly as an American Jew. For me, part of how I do that is through Bet Tzedek. And what Luis and Stan founded over 50 years ago was, in so many ways, the purest expression of both core Jewish values and our unique American civic religion, our common faith as Americans that we can govern ourselves in a nation of laws where everyone is entitled to equal justice. Luis and Stan were no doubt driven by the story of Exodus and the repeated reminders in the Bible and the Torah that Jews were once strangers in the land of Egypt. We were once exiled. We were once enslaved. The Bible reminds us of our exile not to create a sense of entitlement or victimhood amongst us, amongst the Jewish people, but to underscore what Rabbi Angela Buchdahl calls our superpower, our empathy, our ability to recognize our own history as outsiders in the pain and struggles of others. You too must befriend the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. We hear it every Passover. That's why Rabbi Heschel marched with Martin Luther King. That's why Rabbi Stephen Wise and other Jewish civil rights leaders were instrumental in founding the NAACP. So too with Bet Tzedek. If you can't afford a legal advocate, very simple. Diego and Yvonne and the fearless attorneys at Bet Tzedek will be there for you. We will help you get justice. It doesn't matter where you come from or how you might pray. Over the past few months, especially after what we've seen in Minneapolis and right here in Los Angeles, I've been thinking a lot about my grandfather, Joseph Rako. Never knew him. Passed away many years before I was born, but his memory always loomed large. As a teenager, he was exiled to Siberia by an autocratic regime for his political views. He was about the same age as his great-grandson bass-playing Noah when he was shot by the Tsar's police trying to escape. Just a boy. And Jewish memories like these should not harden the heart, they should enlarge it. Empathy is not our weakness, it's our inheritance, our moral compass. Bet Tzedek is what happens when memory meets action. Diego will tell you about clients we have at this moment who have lived and worked among us for decades, who are too afraid to leave their homes and come to the Tzedek offices just to meet with their lawyers because they're too afraid of getting picked up by ICE. Okay? That is unacceptable. Now, I have to say there's no doubt that Jewish empathy has been tested since October 7th. What followed those attacks was a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism, including right here in Los Angeles, over 200%. Yes, we must confront it. We must fight it. And as every lawyer in this room knows, lies don't correct themselves. The work that our friends at Brandeis and the ADL, I've been so proud to partner with them on, the work they've been doing is critical, but we can't narrow our focus. We must live our values now even more visibly. The truth is the need for Tzedek to serve all of Los Angeles is greater now than it ever has been. This is not the moment to pull back. It is the moment to step up for the strangers among us. As Rabbi Hillel taught us, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? So the hour is late, and I know I'm the only thing standing between you and the valet line, or better yet, the BTNLC after party up on the roof. Please bear with me with just a couple of additional thank yous before I wrap up. Huge thank you to Amy Peckner, Vincent Cummings, Jackie Brown, the Tzedek staff. And to my fellow board members for making this a historic event in the life of this great organization. What a show of support tonight from my partners and colleagues from Covington, from around the country. I know it's really late for you guys. For law firms, being on the right side of history is a choice. From representing Fred Korematsu in the landmark Japanese internment case during World War II, to my dear friend Aaron Lewis, taking on the discriminatory cash bail system in his hometown of Detroit, to joining forces with our friends at Munger Tolls in support of our friends at Perkins Coie's challenge to an unlawful executive order. Covington has consistently chosen to be on the right side of history. I am deeply grateful for our firm, for all of your support, and I aspire to be just a tiny part of its great legacy. A brief PSA for all the big law firm associates here tonight. Remember that little boy Jacob. Don't walk out of here tonight and say goodbye Diego, goodbye Yvonne, goodbye Tzedek. You can each help deliver justice to more people who deserve it. Commit yourself to taking on at least one Tzedek pro bono client in the next year. Reach out to Sarah Levine, our Tzedek pro bono director, if you want a case. We'll get you one right away. So thinking back to my bar mitzvah, the thing I remember most was not actually that story about Jacob. It was the pure joy and on the faces of my mom and dad, Bill and Sarah Lee Shallman, as their youngest of five, that ginger-haired boy, Danny, read from the Torah that day. Mom and dad were the most humble, modest people, but there was, I can tell you, a lot of kvelling that day, and there surely would have been tonight. They would be especially thankful for all of our family and dear friends who are here to support this exceptional organization. This award I dedicate to their memories, which are and will continue to be the greatest blessing. Thank you.
Please welcome Beit Tzedek board members. He's a partner at HKA, and she's a partner at Kroll and Mooring LLP, Alex Menenberg and Jennifer Romano.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of tonight's program. Thank you for helping us celebrate our Tzedek community. We want to take this final opportunity to applaud our honorees and to thank each of you for joining us tonight and supporting tens of thousands of low-income Angelenos year-round.
We also want to extend a special thank you to the attorneys and staff at Tzedek. Without you, none of this work would happen. You inspire us to do good and to be good to one another. That is a message that is as important today as ever.
Okay, now let's talk money. With your help through tonight's Text to Give campaign, we have so far raised $151,551. And we emphasize so far because it's not over, people. Please continue to share the link with friends and colleagues to keep the momentum going on this important campaign.
And if the math has been done correctly, and it was not me who did it, that brings the total raised for tonight's gala to $2,484,816. It's amazing. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for joining us. We invite you all back right here next year. We know that this year is going to be a really challenging one for our clients, but we will be here for them, and we look forward to having you back here next year where we can share all that Tzedek has been able to accomplish because of your generosity. That's it. Safe travels, safe drive. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you for attending Tzedek's 2026 Annual Dinner Gala. We couldn't do our work without each of you and look forward to seeing you throughout the year. We now invite you to continue the celebration on the rooftop deck for cocktails, spectacular views, and a toast to a year of justice.